the tax rate or the mill levy rate. And that's a really important piece to underscore. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. The funds are earmarked for two specific areas that the community told us were important to them. We did some in-depth research prior to making this decision with our community to learn more about their priorities. There were a number that emerged, but the two top priorities focused on transportation and infrastructure, fixing potholes, repairing bridges, maintaining roads, and other county infrastructure issues, as well as public safety. We were talking a moment ago about the quarry fire. Public safety in this case includes wildfire and flood mitigation. Addiction and mental health programs and crime prevention is a big part of that. And I know with our sheriff on the line, she may have more to say about some of the challenges her office is facing right now. If the measure is approved by voters, the county would be authorized in perpetuity to collect full revenues, just like most counties. This is not a tax increase. The measure would also ensure, and this is a critical piece as well, that state grants for areas like wildfire, human services, roads, affordable housing, and other county programs or services do not count against the county's spending cap under state law. The measure also requires regular audits. We feel very strongly about being transparent, being held accountable for the way funds are spent. So the dollars that are above the cap that we would now be able to reinvest in those county services would be audited every year to make sure they're being spent in those two areas, transportation and infrastructure and public safety. Some of you may ask, well, what happens if this measure fails, if it doesn't win support from voters? If it fails, the county is poised to make 20 million in budget cuts next year. And that number could change based on whether we can find additional one-time monies. We've worked incredibly hard to be innovative, efficient, and find ways we can cut further, but we think it's going to be in that ballpark of about 20 million. It's also important to note that this is not the first time the county has made budget cuts. To date, Jeffco cut 16.1 million in the 2020 budget and 8.7 million in 2021. And then COVID hit. And we received federal funding during the pandemic, and that staved off additional budget cuts at the county. But those federal dollars are no longer available. The other issue that comes up a lot, and then I'd love to turn it over to Andy and Sheriff Marinelli to see if they have some additional thoughts. And I want to be respectful of Catherine's time frame too for this ballot issue. Many ask, well, look, why is Jeffco making cuts when it's collecting more in property taxes? And this is where we come full circle. The value of homes has increased in Colorado. So has the amount you're paying in property taxes, although we have not increased property taxes. Those property taxes fund essential county services, roads, public safety, wildfire, free and fair elections, and more. The influx of additional property taxes does not significantly benefit Jeffco. Why? Under state law, Jeffco is limited in how much the county can collect and spend in property taxes, and dollars over the cap are returned to taxpayers in the form of a refund check. We're asking to remove that refund check. It does not impact your state refund check, so you'll still get your state refund check. However, it will impact your county refund. The average refund check from the county is $22 annually. That's averaged out over a couple of years. In 2024, the county expects to get 3.5 million expects to refund 30.5 million to taxpayers unless the measure is approved. Staff is still calculating what that refund amount is for taxpayers. And I'll just wrap up by saying that it's important to note most other counties across Colorado, in fact, around 62 of the 64 counties reinvest those dollars above the cap in services and programs. For Jeffco, that's $30 million that could be reinvested in essential county services to help improve residents' quality of life. So that's sort of the Cliff Notes version of the ballot question. It really is that straightforward. And Catherine, I'd love to just ask quickly if Andy or Reggie have any additional thoughts, if that's okay.
Andy, are you with us from the Carnation Festival?
Yes. And first of all, hey folks, wave to Second Saturday. Wave. Second Saturday here. We're with Brittany Pedersen's fire truck and lots of volunteers. So waving from there. So yeah, I think obviously Leslie laid out the case there and everything. What a couple of things that I think are really important for folks to know. I'm gonna take a bit more of the negative, pushback against what I know. I've already heard the opponent saying that this is a tax increase. It absolutely is not a tax increase. It says right in the language, without raising tax rates, without raising mill levy rates. So this is not a tax increase. The county will not collect one additional penny, one additional dollar. If this passes, it's simply retaining the revenue. The other thing that the people who just think Tabor is the bee's knees or whatever you want to say, is that this does not destroy Tabor. This does not do an end run. This is exactly what Tabor says to do. Is that if a local government wants to retain money for specific purposes, you put it on the ballot, you let the people vote on it, and you tell them where the money's going. That's exactly what this measure does. So this in my opinion, this is what Tabor demands of people in Colorado, is to be involved, to be informed, and to make these decisions. And so we are not only within the spirit and the letter of Tabor, but we're also doing what Tabor insists that citizens in Colorado do and make these decisions. So those are some of the reasons we put this on the ballot, and strongly support it.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. We'll let you get to your parade. Please say hello to Brittany and everybody else. Yay. So many things going on. It's election season. Everyone's busy. I know we have Sheriff Marinelli on the call, and Sheriff Marinelli, you talk about some of the things that are not mandated that we would lose or could potentially lose if this measure doesn't pass. And I wonder if you could share just a couple of those things, because I think it's so compelling.
Sure. I don't have the list with me. I apologize too. This is Fire Marshal hairdo and looks today because it has been a long 3 weeks. I will tell you, I was at a meeting yesterday with the FBI and the entire region talking about human trafficking and the children being trafficked, the children being enslaved throughout the Wyoming, Colorado region. So that right there is a perfect example that I am not mandated to put special investigators into a topic such as human trafficking. CHIZO, I think most people in Jefferson County know who CHIZO is, which is a group of investigators that are under my office that go after the people that are attacking and victimizing our most vulnerable population, which is our children. If we were to start cutting budgets, these are some of the enormous decisions I would have to make as to where those cuts come from. I am not mandated to have CHIZO. I am not mandated to participate in the human trafficking efforts. I am not mandated to have a drug task force, which I do. And right now, the mental health situation within our jail population is so enormous, and the deaths that we are having, and you're going to see this in the news this coming week, because they're getting ready to do a huge attention spread on the Jefferson County Jail as to how many deaths we've had in the last year and a half. They are all due to drugs, due to fentanyl issues, mental health, addiction. And so I'm not mandated to do the assistance to my jail population that I do. We are trying to think outside of the box on how we can actually continue doing a lot of the non-mandated stuff. When I talk about non-mandates that hit our most vulnerable population, in Jefferson County, it's important with us after the Columbine High School massacre that we work well with R1 schools. I am not mandated to have school resource officers, yet I have 14 of them. So I can't even imagine pulling those back. So those are just a couple of the things, you know, that we're looking at as far as mandate versus non-mandate, because when I have to cut my budget upwards of $13 million, I have to look at what I'm not mandated to do. And again, that's the drugs, that's the task forces that go after these people, that go after the children, go after the addicted people, go after the mental health school resource officers. So we're sitting in a very vulnerable position with this ballot. I will do everything I can to be able to go out and talk, especially about the fire mitigation. I mean, there are so many topics I can talk about right now. But please read the ballot, listen to what the commissioners are saying about the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights and how this is truly the way to go about it. And this is not raising taxes. It is being able to retain the money that's already been collected to be able to go and support crime prevention, fire mitigation, flood mitigation, because we're going to have a situation with flood now after the fire. So all of these things and so many more I could talk all day on. So thank you. And please do your research, your education, and be able to talk to your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers.
Thank you so much, Sheriff Marinelli, and huge shout out. I mean, fire is so scary, and it's such a real threat to Jefferson County, and none of us are safe. So thank you so much for your hard work, and we'll let you we forgive you for the hairdo. Thank you for joining and taking time with us. So appreciated. All right, so we're going to keep on trucking here, and it is my pleasure now to turn things over to our House Majority Leader, Monica Duran, who is going to tell you about one of the ballot measures that is going to be on the ballot as a statewide measure. And she's going to talk for a few minutes, and then we will have a few questions. And so go ahead, Representative Duran, take it away.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and good morning, everyone. And before I get started, Commissioner Dahlkemper, do you have the ballot number, or is it?
We should know. Thanks for asking. We should know in September what that will be, and we'll be sure to pass it along.
Okay, great, because that'll be helpful. I asked because we were just assigned ours. It's called Prop KK, and so we're in the midst of rebranding everything because of that. But I will get right to it. This last session, I passed a bill. It was House Bill 1349 that actually would expand the crime victim fund services. And that's where Proposition now KK comes in. And what that is exactly, and I'll give you some background. When we were looking, actually, a lot of work that I do at the Capitol is funding for crime victims, whether that's domestic violence, sexual assault. We all know that one of the top priorities is public safety. So in looking at the funding streams, we were trying to think outside the box. In conversations with many stakeholders, looking at trying to do an excise tax on whether it be tobacco, marijuana, or liquor, all those are taxed, at certain levels already. And what we found was the main component to all of these different issues was gun violence. And when we looked back to see what we could do to really bring in a funding stream, we came up with an excise tax on gun manufacturers and ammunition. So the excise tax falls on the manufacturers. It's not on the consumer. Not to say that gun stores are not going to pass on the excise tax to them, but I just want to make it clear because there's been a lot of confusion as to where the excise tax, how that's implemented. And it's a 6.5% excise tax, and that will be on the ballot this November. A few talking points here and things I do want to highlight is that, and I'll break down the 3 different buckets because I think that'll be really helpful and instrumental in understanding. So we all know that not only in the state of Colorado, but throughout the nation, that mental health, we have a mental health crisis. we have really stepped up in the state of Colorado and invested a lot of dollars into mental health, but it's never enough, obviously. So a little bit of background on that. In Colorado, gun suicide deaths occur every 13 hours. In 2022, gunfire took the lives of 1,000 Coloradans, and 73% of all gun deaths were suicide. So suicide is the leading cause of death for Colorado youth and young adults. We're talking from 10 to 24. Black children and teens are 5 times more likely than other white peers to die by guns. Colorado veterans have a significantly higher rate of suicide than the national average. Colorado expects a 39% increase in veteran service needs, and current resources are inadequate to meet the needs of almost over 400,000 Colorado veterans. Women experiencing domestic violence are 5 times more likely to be killed when a gun is present in the home. In Colorado, 86% of domestic violence homicides are committed with a gun. Funding the Victim Services Program has been cut in half since 2018, and there are more funding cuts coming. What does this mean when you think about, okay, so we're losing funding? What it means is that victim services programs across the state, especially in our rural areas, will lose the services they need, but we're also going to lose the staffing that we need. Programs, we're talking hotel vouchers, we're talking counseling. So when you think about the number, approximately that will impact, and it's about 150 victims will lose services in the state of Colorado year after year. This isn't okay. I know that Colorado is better than this, and I know that we can do better. There's only one other state that has passed an excise tax within the state, and that was California, and they were able to do that legislatively. We cannot because of Tabor. So we're really kind of setting the standard here and acknowledging that we need to make sure that we provide the services that are needed, the mental health services that are needed for not only our veterans, our at youth risk, but also services for crime victims. So let me kind of walk you through the 3 buckets where the dollars will be allocated. We came up with 39 million. Because of Tabor, we're within certain restrictions. Anything above that comes in, say, there's a year where it's 50 million. Anything over that 39 million will go back to the taxpayers. We had tried to figure out a way that maybe we could hold on to that, create a grant program, do many different things. It just wasn't feasible. So I just want to make that clear. So let me give you the 3 buckets, and then I'm happy to answer some questions. We can dig in deeper. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to do that. So the first bucket of the 39 million, that's going to go to the crime victim services. It's going to be administered by the Office for Victim Programs and the Division of Criminal Justice. The second bucket, 8 million, goes to behavioral and mental health cash fund. These are existing programs that are there. So 5 million of it is going to go to our Division of Veteran Affairs every year, hopefully. And then 3 million is going to be used for behavioral health for our at youth risk. And then we have 1 million that's going to be going to school security disbursement program. And that'll be administered through the Office of School Safety. And it's a program we already have. And they were in need of funding. So when you think about 1 million, it could go to capital construction, it can go to training programs, which we need within our schools. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the funding is going to go. It's not just going into the great abyss and dollars could be allocated wherever. It's strictly these 3 buckets for this purpose. And it's just really, really important that we step up, support this. My hope in educating and bringing this to awareness here with all of you is that we can count on your support. We are rebranding our website and everything since we were just given our Prop KK number. And I'm happy to share that with Catherine once we get all that changed. And you can go online actually, and you can sign up in support of the Ballot initiative. So with that, I will just kick it back over to you, Catherine, if folks have questions. And like I said, happy to dig in deeper offline if you've got more questions.
Awesome, Majority Leader Duran. That's so fun to say. I've known the Majority Leader for a really long time, since she was running for city council way back in the day. So exciting to see her do so much in politics. Okay, are there questions for Majority Leader Duran? Okay, well, that was a great overview. Oh, we got a question. Yes, Robert. I think he's having trouble coming off mute. So we'll move on to Sharon Davis, and Robert, if you can get off mute, we'll come back to you.
Okay. Why
Oh,
are
there you are.
okay, I'm sorry. Why are gun manufacturers responsible for the suicides?
Thank you for that question, Robert. And we're not saying they're responsible for the suicides. What we're saying is we
You're
need to
making
make
them
sure.
you're
If I
making
could
them
finish,
pay.
if I could finish, please. Thank you. What I'm saying is that we have a high level of not only domestic violence and sexual assault cases here in the state of Colorado. I think our sheriff mentioned even human trafficking, child human trafficking. And we have high level of mental health issues. And what we're saying here is the correlation between all of those is gun violence. And a 6.5% excise tax on manufacturers of guns and ammunition is really, when you look at the overall picture, just a small bucket, right, of funding to be able to come in to make sure that we are meeting the needs in the state of Colorado of crime victims that are being impacted by gun violence. So it's not pointing the finger. It's not impeding on anyone's Second Amendment rights. I am a gun owner myself. I have a concealed carry permit, and I will happily pay the 6.5% on a gun purchase or ammunition. We all need to be accountable and responsible for public safety and for the impacts that the lack of services for survivors and victims of crime. And this is a way that we can step up and say, this matters, this is important. How can we help support and navigate? This is nothing new. Thank you for that.
We'll move on to Sharon Davis.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Representative Duran. I really appreciate this. In the chat, and I'm not sure if you saw it, but I was hoping that you could share some of your statistics with Catherine so that she can share them with the larger group. I think this will go very far in my sharing with my residents the importance of this and what it really means. I mean, everybody thinks it's for everybody, but this is very pointed and specific. And I think people need to know that. And then as well, thank you to Commissioners Dahlkemper and Kerr, because I want to make sure that we speak intelligently about that revenue retention, that it's not a new tax. It's actually, hey, you've already spent it. Let's keep it and spend it on some really important some really important projects and programs that we have going on to improve and keep the standard of living that we have here in Jefferson County. So thank you so much to everybody.
I'll happily share those with Catherine.
Yes, and we'll be putting out this recording. I am recording, and so this is going to be available on the website as we get closer to the election so that everyone can hear this presentation and these great questions. All right, well, thank you again, Majority Leader Duran. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Okay, so our next presenter is my good friend and expert on so many things, Senator Evie Hudak, and I don't even know exactly what she's presenting, but I'm excited to see it because she's always full of great information. And I have made you a co-host, Evie, so you can take it away.
All right, thank you, Catherine, and again, happy birthday to you. Your commitment to the Jefferson County Democrats and doing this on your birthday, we really appreciate. I know it's a big part of your life, so thanks. So I'm going to be presenting on two different ballot issues. The first one is Initiative 138. It will later get a different, obviously a different number. It will be Amendment something once it's certified to the ballot. And this is constitutional right to school choice. So what this ballot issue does is it declares that all children have the right to equal opportunity to access a quality education, and that all K-12 children have a right to school choice. It defines school choice as neighborhood, charter, private, and home schools, open enrollment options, and future innovations in education. And it declares that parents have the right to direct the education of their children. So what's the problem with this? There are problems with this. First of all, school choice in K-12 education is already available in every form stated in the initiative. We don't need to put this in the Constitution. But putting the choice for private and home schools in the Constitution would make it legal for vouchers to pay for them. And that is really the hidden agenda behind the people who are pushing for this initiative. Vouchers have been ruled unconstitutional in Colorado. The legislature passed a voucher bill years ago when the Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, and the governor was Republican. But then there was a lawsuit and it was ruled unconstitutional. And that was based on the current version of our state constitution. But if this passes, it would override that part of the Constitution and therefore would make vouchers legal. And they were very sneaky in the way they wrote this, so it doesn't mention vouchers, but really, to a large extent, that's what this ballot issue is about. And I just want to also go back to what it said about future innovations in education. That is so vague that literally any new innovation in education would literally be fundable because it would be authorized by our Constitution. That is so incredibly vague as to be ridiculous. And then the part of it that says allows parents to direct the education of their children, this would override local control by our school districts, which is also currently in the Constitution. And that would likely lead to numerous lawsuits and utter chaos in school administration, because it would say parents have the constitutional right to tell schools how they provide education for their own children. And so it would basically eliminate public education, just that one provision. The vouchers are just incredibly expensive. There are other states that have implemented vouchers along the lines of what Initiative 138 says, and it's ending up costing them, like Arizona, it's costing $800 million. Colorado doesn't have money like this to put in our budget. So if we were forced by this initiative to fund vouchers, there wouldn't be enough money left for public education. It would be everybody against everybody else. And I know the charter school people were upset about a particular bill that went through the last session, and it did get killed. So the charter people are advertising this as a way to save charter schools. Absolutely, it will not do that, because money for vouchers would take away funding for charter schools too. This would kill charter schools, not save them, as some people have espoused. So that is Initiative 138. You will find out what it's going to be called. It will be Amendment something when it's on the ballot. So before I go to the next one, I would be glad to answer any questions.
It always takes people a minute to raise their hands. Go ahead, Joel.
Sure.
Hi, Evie. Thanks for all your hard work on this. As something reading it on the ballot and looking through the blue book, and I want to try to help educate my friends and family of what this means when they don't use any verbiage with vouchers, but you're saying it really is about vouchers. What's the best way that I can communicate that with my friends?
Okay, so the best thing would be that if the Constitution gives you a right to private schools and homeschools, that could obligate the legislature to pay for it with vouchers.
Thank you.
All right, a way to make it succinct. Other questions about this initiative? All right, and then this is so typical. We're going to call it school choice because how could that be a bad thing? And it's so important that people get educated. So, and again, that's why we're doing this ballot measures piece where at least we can tell people to vote no on this. Pretty sure that the state party will make this a no vote. Don't know for sure, but we'll find out. Okay, Evie, if you want to get on to
Yes.
the next thing, which is also horrible.
Yes, I will. But first, I want to mention that Stan Dyer put a comment in the chat that it looks like a way of getting around laws against segregation. And yes, it absolutely is. Because if you talk about innovations in education, should you have an all-white school that is an innovation, then that would be legal, constitutionally legal, according to this ballot initiative. All kinds of horrible things would happen. And by the way, I'm sure the state party will come out against it because we have a very strong platform opposing vouchers in our state party platform. Okay, the next one, which is also insidious, is ballot initiative 310. And this will be a statutory change, so it will be a proposition with some number. It's establishing an all-candidate primary and ranked choice voting general elections. That's the title of it. So, what are the key provisions? First of all, it creates an all-candidate primary election only for state offices and U.S. House and Senate. So state offices would be the state Senate, the state House of Representatives, the governor, the treasurer, the attorney general, the secretary of state, and the state treasurer. Those are state offices. So it would be them and the U.S. House and Senate. No other offices would be in this category. And what it does is it says the 4 candidates receiving the highest number of votes based on ranked choice voting would go on the general election ballot. So only 4 candidates from this primary for all of those offices I just mentioned would be on the general election ballot, regardless of party affiliation or non-affiliation. And the candidate's political party will appear with their name. All registered voters will receive the same ballot for this primary. And it institutes ranked choice voting and instant runoffs for these offices and all political party nominations. It necessitates a separate primary ballot for all the offices not in the all-candidate primary. So basically, the other partisan offices that we vote on are county offices, county commissioners, county treasurer, district attorney, sheriff, county treasurer, county assessor, county surveyor. All of those county offices would still be on a primary ballot like you already get, where you choose if you want to vote in the Democratic or the Republican primary. So you can see already what the problems are here. But reasons to oppose it. First of all, it's being sold as involving only ranked choice voting. I know because they were collecting signatures in front of my local King Soopers, and that's what they were saying it is. But it involves so much more than that, and the ranked choice voting doesn't apply to everything. It would require 2 separate primary ballots going out to different sets of voters. So everybody would get the all candidate primary ballot, and then Democrats would get the Democratic primary ballot, Republicans would get the Republican primary ballot, and unaffiliateds would get either the Democratic or Republican one that they would choose. So it will make voting difficult to administer and twice as expensive because our counties will now have to pay for sending out 2 sets of ballots to 2 different groups of people. And it'll be really confusing for the voters. And it could be confusing for the county to figure out who gets what. So the worst part of this for us to think about as Democrats is it greatly weakens the political parties, because there's no guarantee that each party will have its own nominee on the ballot. Since the all candidate primary, any number of candidates can go on it. And, you know, in the current primary process, as you've experienced, we in the Democratic Party, we have a primary and the party picks its nominee for the primary ballot, but people can also petition on to the primary ballot, and that will still be the case here. So literally, there could be in this all candidate primary, there could be, you know, 10 Democrats, 10 Republicans, any number of other people, and the top 4 vote getters would be on the ballot. So say that it's in a Republican district where the top 4 vote getters are Republicans, there wouldn't be any Democrat on the ballot in the general election. And there wouldn't be a Libertarian, a Green Party. There's no guarantee that any party would have its nominee on the ballot because it's the top 4 vote getters in what is being called a jungle primary. That's what some people who have seen it in other states call it, and they don't like it. So it's going to be really confusing and complicated to voters, and it's been proven in states that have this, it lowers voter participation, especially among minority and marginalized voters, and will possibly cause many ballots to be disqualified because of these confusions. And this model favors wealthier candidates. And you need to know that the money behind this, the person behind this, is a man named Kent Thierry. And he is a millionaire who wants to be governor. And by the way, he's a Republican. And he's the one that was behind the proposition that we passed to allow unaffiliated voters to participate in primaries. But apparently that wasn't enough for him to feel like he could buy his way into being governor. And so he's going forward with this one. And California has a jungle primary. I think it's in San Francisco. I'm not positive where. But it was the race where Katie Porter lost to another Democrat because they had a jungle primary. And then election results will take much longer to tally. It could be up to 2 weeks because first of all, you've got the all candidate primary ballot that county clerks have to figure out who won, and with the ranked choice voting in it and the instant runoff, there's all, you know, it's much more complicated to figure out if somebody's second preference goes to what candidate and how they rise to the top and so forth. And then, of course, there's the other primary that they have to tally. So that's 310, and I'm really hoping the Democratic Party will come out against it. There is already a coalition working against this, a voter rights coalition.
Awesome, Evie. Representative Tatone posted in the chat if there's a messaging document. So as I understand it, since there is this group, maybe we can get them to present at one of our subsequent second Saturdays, and we'll get some materials from them. And we
I already have their messaging document.
That'd be great.
I could send it to you.
Okay.
I
That'd
got a
be
lot
great.
of my talking points from it.
Okay, I will post it to the website when I get a chance.
Okay.
And we're gonna have information on all the ballot measures on the website, just as soon as we can get past the Eleanor Roosevelt dinner and get the lit drop out. I have a lot on my plate, but we will get the website updated. And and of course, this recording will be on the website as well. So are there any questions about this for Senator Hudak? Okay. Oh, Robert again. Yes.
It seems like I've been to some Democratic, I guess, caucus meetings where Democrats were advocating for ranked choice voting.
Yes, but that, as I mentioned, is only a small part of this. It doesn't apply to all elections. It only applies to the all candidate primary and partisan elections. And what I've said to other people is, you have to look at the whole enchilada. You might like the lettuce, but you might not like the other ingredients in it. And so you might like ranked choice voting, but that's not enough to support this entire measure, which is so bad.
I'd like to ask a question, but unfortunately my hand cannot be raised at this time.
Go ahead, Monique.
Edie, you said that it only applies to certain elections and not to others. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, I went through the initiative and I read it. I went through it and I read it word for word 3 times, and I looked at the particular references to the part of state law that the ranked choice voting applies to. And it literally was only this all candidate primary and partisan elections.
Okay.
And I can give you, if you go on the Secretary of State's, and I could put the link for you in there and you can read it yourself, you have to go to statutes 1-7-1000 and something. And I did go to the law book and I did look at that.
Okay. I asked because I know that it's been promoted for municipal elections, and having attended more than one audit, the election staff is pulling their hair out even over those small elections with ranked choice voting. And it's not that necessarily it's a terrible idea, but it's very difficult to audit. It
Yes.
becomes extremely expensive and cumbersome,
Right.
and they really don't have the funds to do the audit. And one of the strengths of Colorado's election system is that we have these audits that are sealed tight. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I have actually some of the messaging against this initiative talks about the strength of our election system in Colorado. And, we have really high voter participation and we get our results really quickly. This will mess all that up. So is there a website for the No campaign? I will look into that, Brianna, and I will try to put whatever links I can find immediately in the chat.
Okay, but don't look for them now, Evie.
Okay, all right,
Sorry, but we gotta move on.
okay.
Because I know you have one more thing to talk about, is that
No,
right?
no, that's
Oh,
it.
that was it? That was it? Okay, great.
All right.
All right, so I do want to, I see a question from Senator Boyd about number 89, and we are going to get someone from Cobalt to talk to us in either September or October. This was kind of just the people I could get, since we're very early in the process. I mean, as you can tell, these things have not even all made it to the ballot. We just are pretty confident that they will. And so we're trying to get a preview out, and there's so much to cover. I wanted to spend 3 second Saturdays on it. So this is kind of the light one. In October, Chris Kennedy is going to be joining us. He's the new president of the Bell Policy Institute, talking about some of the horrendous tax measures that are going to be on the ballot. And we'll have everything finalized by the time we get to the September 2nd Saturday. So I'm actually going to stop the recording now.